I was 34 years old when I realized I'd been performing my entire life for an audience that stopped watching decades ago. It happened in a conference room on a Tuesday morning. My boss was congratulating David on closing a major deal. Nothing unusual, happens all the time. But as everyone clapped, something inside my chest tightened like a fist. My hands started trembling. Not just nervous energy, but actual shaking I couldn't control. I excused myself, walked calmly to the bathroom, locked the stall door, and just completely fell apart. And that's when the memory hit me. Not gently, like memories usually do, but like a freight train I'd been running from my whole life. I was 8 years old, sitting at the dinner table. I'd just gotten an applause on my science project, the only one in my class. I was so excited I could barely sit still. I waited for the right moment to tell them, practiced the words in my head. When I finally spoke up, my dad glanced at me for maybe 2 seconds before turning back to my mom. They were discussing my little sister's ballet recital. She'd remembered all her steps this time. My mom's face was just glowing. They talked about it for 20 minutes. I never mentioned my project again. Here's what nobody tells you about childhood emotional neglect. It doesn't always look like abuse. Sometimes it just looks like distraction. Like your parents being so focused on the child who needs more attention that they forget to see the one who's already trying so hard. And that child learns something devastating. Love is earned through achievement, and even then, you might not get it. I became obsessed with being undeniable. Perfect grades, captain of the debate team, full scholarship to college. Every accomplishment was a message I was sending backward through time. See me now, see me now, see me now. But here's the sick twist I only understood in that bathroom stall. 26 years later, I'd built an entire adult life around chasing the feeling of being chosen, and I'd made sure I'd never actually feel it. Every woman I dated was emotionally unavailable. I told myself I liked independent women, but the truth was darker. I was attracted to distance, to uncertainty, to women who made me work for scraps of affection because that's what felt like home. The few times someone loved me easily, openly, without me having to earn it, I got bored, or worse, suspicious. What's wrong with her that she'd want me without the performance? If you're listening to this and something's twisting in your gut right now, stay with me. Because what I'm about to tell you might change how you see your entire life. I met Sarah 2 years ago. She was different from anyone I'd dated. She was present, available. She told me she loved me after 6 months, and she said it like it was the simplest truth in the world. No games, no hoops to jump through, and I panicked. I started picking fights over nothing. I worked late every single night. I became critical, distant, the exact thing I'd always hated in others. One night, she asked me a question that just broke me open. Why are you trying so hard to make me leave? I didn't have an answer, but my body did. I felt that same tightness in my chest from the conference room. That 8-year-old panic because Sarah was offering me something I'd convinced myself I could never have, unconditional acceptance. And the only framework I had for love was conditional, earned, fragile. That weekend I went to my childhood home to pick up some old boxers my mom had been asking me to clear out. In one of them, I found my elementary school journals. I almost threw them away without looking, but something made me open one. There, in my 9-year-old handwriting, was a sentence that made me sit down right on the dusty garage floor. I am going to be so good that they'll have to see me. 9 years old, already building the prison I'd live in for the next 25 years. Here's what I finally understood. Sitting in that garage, the child inside me was still waiting at that dinner table, still holding that science project, still believing that if I just achieved enough, performed well enough, made myself impressive enough, someone would finally look at me the way my parents looked at my sister, with easy pride, with uncomplicated love. But I wasn't chasing my parents' approval anymore. They were gone, moved to Florida, retired, dealing with their own lives. I was chasing ghosts, and worse, I was punishing myself. Every time I sabotaged something good, every time I pushed away someone who loved me, I was proving to that 8-year-old boy that he was right to believe he wasn't enough. It was a twisted form of control. If I failed on purpose, then I wasn't really failing. I was just confirming what I already knew. Psychologists call this repetition compulsion. We recreate our childhood wounds over and over, hoping this time the story will end differently. But it never does, because we're not actually trying to heal. We're trying to feel familiar. And familiar, even when it's painful, feels safer than change. I want you to think about something right now. What are you still trying to prove? Who are you still performing for? And here's the harder question. What good things are you sabotaging because they do unmatch the story you learned to tell yourself about your worth? If this resonates with you, do me a favor. Don't just watch and scroll. Hit that subscribe button, because we're building a community of people who are done living out their childhood scripts. We're rewriting the ending together. I started therapy 3 weeks after that bathroom breakdown. My therapist asked me to do something that felt impossible. Stop achieving for 1 month. No extra projects, no working late, no performing. Just exist and see what happens. It was the hardest month of my life. Harder than any exam, any presentation, any performance review. Because without achievement, I didn't know who I was. Without the hustle, without the constant motion forward, I had to sit with the question I'd been running from since I was 8, am I enough just as I am? The answer didn't come in some magical revelation. It came in small moments. Sarah making me coffee in the morning and smiling at me, not because I'd done anything, just because I was there. A friend texting to check in, not because I'd helped them with something, but just because they thought of me. My therapist looking at me after I said something I thought was stupid and responding with genuine interest instead of judgment. Slowly, painfully, I started to understand. The love I'd been chasing my whole life, the validation I thought I had to earn. It was never about being more, it was about letting myself be seen as I actually was. Flawed, tired, sometimes boring, sometimes brilliant, human. I had a conversation with Sarah last month that I never thought I'd be able to have. I told her everything. About the little boy at the dinner table. About the decades of performing. About how her easy love terrified me because I didn't have a script for it. And she said something I'll never forget. I don't love the performance, I never did. I love the person you are when you stop trying so hard. Here's what I want you to know, if you're still living like that child who needed to be enough. You were always enough. The problem was never you. It was that the people who were supposed to reflect your worth back to you were too distracted, too damaged, too caught up in their own pain to do it. And you internalized their failure as your own. You don't have to earn love. You don't have to perform for acceptance. You don't have to achieve your way into mattering. Those beliefs aren't truth. They're just old survival strategies from a child who didn't have any other options. I'm not fixed. I still catch myself working late to avoid intimacy. I still feel that chest tightness when someone else gets praised. But now I recognize it. I can say to myself, that's the 8-year-old. He's scared. He thinks love is scarce and conditional. But I'm 36 now, and I know better. Love doesn't work the way he thinks it does. If this video found you today, it's not an accident. Somewhere inside you knows you've been living someone else's script. Maybe it's time to write your own. One where you're not chasing approval from people who can't give it. One where being enough isn't something you achieve. It's something you already are. Drop a comment and tell me, what pattern from childhood are you finally ready to break? Let's talk about it. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's still performing for ghosts, share this with them. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is help someone see they've been enough all along. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being brave enough to look at the parts of yourself that hurt. That's how healing starts, not with perfection, but with presence. I'll see you in the next one.